Boldly.
Boldly Russian. I will chew gum if I want to chew gum.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Okay, I gotta get to my notes.
Hold on, don't say anything interesting yet, because this wasn't actually recording.
Vacation's next week, guys. Anything fun?
Who wants to ski?
Yeah. Toll Park, we're gonna try to do a lot of skiing.
I don't know how I feel about that. Sam, I think, is on strike, so I don't know.
Like over it?
I think he's kind of over it.
I mean, Jesse's a little over it too, but he could surely convince. Jesse has no dollars. He needs to do some working.
Yeah, he's still going to the rock climbing wall every Saturday or Sunday. Just doesn't that cost $30?
Sure does.
Wow.
Yep.
Uh,
$12.
I don't know what we're. I think. Well, this weekend is Reggae Fest, so the boys will make Buco de Niro working, and then
What's Reggae Fest?
it's where like it's just a big deal at the mountain where they all play reggae music and pretend that they're not white rich
That
people.
sounds epic. People watching too.
The
It
boys
is.
will make money doing what?
Because they work at the rack. They work.
Oh,
that's where they
that's
go
fun.
every Friday and
Oh,
Saturday.
that's
They're
fun.
working at the rack. They've been
They're like a little celebrity family now.
yeah.
Three of them are
So
there.
the three of them. So I kind of told Pierre I want to go just for the people watching. I don't know if I necessarily want to ski, but me to watch a bunch of upper
Just
middle
play.
class white people pretend that they're from Jamaica sounds hilarious to me. Like, let's talk about privilege, people. Like, do you not know who you are?
Did you start that?
No. Should I? I didn't.
I thought you did.
I thought I did. Maybe I did. Hold on.
I thought you went right up to it and did something.
No. I guess I did. You're welcome. Rain. Rain. All right, ready? Let's do it. Let's do it.
Ready.
Ready?
Oh, wait.
1, 2, 3.
I think Rachel's was the best.
I think Rachel's was the best too.
You get a point.
You did.
You good? You
Andy!
good? She's good?
Your eyes are watering. Your eyes are watering.
Self-contained. Okay.
So it's my turn. It's my turn.
On my notes.
Is it my turn? Yes, we decided it's my
Your
turn.
turn.
Okay.
We
So
decided.
I'm gonna take a slight break from
I'm gonna take a sleeping pill.
sleeping, rest a little bit on vulnerability. I'm sure I'll come back to it, but I wanted to do a couple times where we actually unpack a word that's overused or misused in our culture.
Can we guess? Are you doing a
I
bunch of
think
words or
I
just one
know.
word?
I think I know.
I kind of hinted at it at
Oh, I
yours.
do. Yeah. Okay.
So
So good.
so
So good.
and I want to talk about it because I think we should know the words that we're saying, and also if we minimize words sometimes, like when we minimize certain words and make them too mainstream, people who have actually suffered from those, it minimizes that as well. So I feel like it's good for us to just be thoughtful and no. So the first word I'm going to break
Is
down.
there multiple today?
I think so. No. Just
one?
This
Okay.
one today.
Okay.
And I might do it several times. It might be every couple
Do you have different
words.
Yeah.
There's so many.
There's
We should
so
give
many.
some suggestions.
Bruh,
Oh,
for
if you
example.
want to, if you would like to email us a
That's not what
suggestion.
she's talking about, is it?
No.
No.
But if you want to email
Cat.
me,
Bet.
fire, lit.
W.
Buns.
L.
So dumb. So dumb.
many. So many.
If you have a word that you would like me to help you find the origin of it, I'm talking psychological words or things like
Cultural.
that.
I'm thinking cultural words.
Cultural words. I'm happy to do that. Email us at 3maingirls, or is it, what is our email address? Did we change that too?
It's hello@rawrealredeemed.com. Yeah.
Hello at Rob Wheeler.
It's been a while since we've been 3 Mean Girls.
I know. Hello.
Is it you? Is it me?
Is it
Okay.
an email you're looking for?
So the word today is gaslighting.
Oh, I thought it was going to be triggered.
I thought it was
Okay.
gonna be triggered.
That is another one we will
You
be
want to know
talking
one
about.
that I want to be
Yeah.
that culture has hijacked is kind. Just be kind.
Yeah.
The Bible says to be kind. But the Bible does not. Kindness, our culture, kind means I have to agree with everything that you agree with.
Yes, that's
if
a
I
really
say anything
good one.
against what you say, I'm being, what's the word? All kinds of words. Bigot, racist.
Yeah.
Judgmental.
Phobic.
Yeah.
You're phobic.
So that word, I used to love that word. I don't love it anymore. I'm like, it's changed.
I still love it.
I do
But
too, biblically, but not the way our culture does it.
Yeah, no.
So we're going to talk about gaslighting today.
Okay.
Everyone take a deep breath.
I'm feeling a little bit scared because
I've never used that phrase before in my life.
I use it all the time.
You do?
I'm pretty sure that I gaslight myself on a daily.
And we're going to
Ooh.
discuss that.
Yeah.
We can gaslight ourselves. I think your podcast, women gaslight themselves often. So I'm going to start with where the word came from. Because
Yeah,
that's
I
a
don't know.
word
I
that
don't know
came
this.
out of nowhere,
Yeah,
right?
Really
Isn't
break
it?
that down.
Newish.
It's 2 words. So first you have to break down
No,
gas.
it's one word. No, it's one word,
Fart.
gaslighting. Oh, Liza.
No, I just want, someday we're going to have to go back and listen to the one where you're starting to define raw, real, and redeemed. You're like, uncooked.
Yeah.
And I was like, you didn't read these before, did you? You're like, nope, in real time. And I was just like, that was some of the best sound bites we have
Pretty much
ever
what
gotten.
we are, actually.
We are uncooked.
That whole episode was just sound bites.
You're welcome,
It
people.
was amazing.
You're welcome. So, gaslighting is one word, Rach, not two.
Oh,
and it's
I
a
wanted
term.
you
Hyphenated
to
is
define
hyphenated.
gas first.
No, and it was coined from a 1938 British play called Gaslight.
Oh.
And in this play, a husband manipulates a wife
Manipulates.
into thinking she's crazy
Oh.
by slyly changing the intensity of the gas lights in their home when she was left alone.
Wow.
He does this to attempt to make her believe that she cannot trust herself or her memory.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's a psychological thriller. Our local
Wow.
our local theater did it a couple years ago.
What was it called again?
Gaslight. It's a 1938 British
Oh,
I've heard
play.
of that.
called
I didn't
Gaslight.
realize that's where
So
that
that's
came
where it
from.
came from.
Ah,
So
interesting.
when you think about gaslighting, it's often, and we use it, what I hear it being used is disagreement. Like if you disagree with someone, you can say, you're gaslighting me. No, that's not what it means.
No, that's not how I mean it at all.
So what it is it's trying to change a person's reality. So what this husband did in the movie was whenever she was alone, he messed with the lights that happened to be gas lamps. And when she was like, I think there's something going on with the lighting, it's getting lighter and the light keeps changing. He was like, you're crazy. That's not true. That's not what's happening. So that's what gaslighting is. It's a manipulation in which the person, I'm going to get to, it is for sure a manipulation. Sorry. This is my favorite psychologist. He says it this way: a manipulation of the environment for the purpose of making the person feel crazy.
Wow.
So you are manipulating a person's environment, right? That can be yourself too. Like you.
I think it can also be what you say. So if someone says, you did this to me, and they say, no, I didn't, you're crazy. I think that's still a form of gaslighting.
It isn't if so yes and no. So it depends on what they're trying to say. So like, here's an example. Let's say you have a family member. Like I can use mine. I was highly gaslighted as a child and as a young adult. So I had one family therapy appointment with my family. My mother was getting divorced from my stepfather at the time, and we were doing a family therapy session. And the therapist said, can you describe what dinner time was like at your home as a child? And I said, okay, thinking it was, that's a simple question. I said, well, me and my sister ate dinner up in my room or another room. We did not eat at the table because my mom didn't like the sound of the clinking of the dishes. And if we had people over, we would use plastic dishes or we would sit in front of the TV, but we did not sit around the table. And so the therapist looked at my mother and said, can you describe it? And she's like, we had beautiful dinners and we would sit together and we'd snuggle on the couch and watch TV. And I don't know what you're talking about, Amber. That is gaslighting.
Okay.
So
It's just straight up lying.
I was gonna say that's lying.
It's
But,
straight
like,
up lying.
So when I would say, Mom, I have no memory of us snuggling on the couch, she'd be like, we did all the time. We used to watch this movie, and Michelle loved Harry and the Hendersons, and we would laugh, but she's so convincing, and she's telling these that I think I'm crazy. So much so that I have to call my sister. My sister didn't go to that. It's still contentious between. She skipped out on the family therapy appointment, and I said to my sister, "Did we used to watch movies on the couch with Mom?" And she's like, "What? No." But it's so like there's such a convincing idea.
You're left with, am I crazy?
Or
Yes.
would that be like a marital argument maybe where it's like verbal or emotional abuse, so you can't like really put your finger on it necessarily, or like where someone's like, you always make me feel this way, or you it's like more kind of like nebulous-y.
So that could be manipulation. Gaslighting is a specific type of manipulation, and it's for the purpose of making a person feel like they are crazy. Like that's the thing. Like
To confuse, to
unsettle, and
to
so
make
that
them
they can then
feel
have
crazy.
control. So manipulation in itself that's straight up lying. That's you always make me. That's a manipulation. Gaslighting is a very specific and sophisticated,
And
Subtle?
devious type of
It
manipulation.
usually goes hand in hand with narcissism,
Yes.
psychopaths.
Yes.
You know.
People with personality disorders, it is a way in which they can control their environment, which is what people with personality disorders are in a need to do at all times. They have to have complete control over their environment. And so this is a tool that they use often. So that's why it's so specific, because people who have been gaslit, like myself, and I believe Rachel has been as well, when that has happened to you,
multiple people.
but when that happens to you, it actually does damage in your brain. So that's why it's something that shouldn't just be flippant. Like, so somebody could be manipulative. Some people could be, lying, or you could even use the word devious. But when you use the word gaslight, if someone doesn't agree with you, or if you feel like you're seeing a situation in two different ways because you're two different people, and saying, you're gaslighting me. No, you're gaslighting me. No, that's not what gaslighting is. It's
I
not.
joke around that I gaslight myself, but it's because in my narrative, I'll wake up on the morning and be like, "You're fat, you're ugly,"
Yes.
and then myself, my redeemed self, the Lord loves, will be like, "You are not. You are beautiful. You need to love your body." And my gaslighting self says, "No, you're fat.
Yeah.
You need to stop eating. You need to go for a walk. You need
And
to lift
usually-
weights. You need to do this. You need to do this." And then that starts getting so loud that all the you needs to's start raining down on me, and I have to literally claw my psyche.
Right.
Out of that.
And that voice is normally a person that has gaslit you in the past. For people who gaslight themselves, like and usually those are people who were involved with or have family members who are narcissistic or have borderline personality disorder or psychopath or sociopath personality disorder in general. They are that's the voice. So when I gaslight myself, if I stop, or if Peter stops me when he sees I'm starting to go down the tubes, or if I think he's gaslighting me and he's not, he'll say, "I'm not your mother." That's literally his key word when I start spiraling.
Yeah.
And when I stop the narrative and I rewind it and I find it, almost always that is something that was said to me.
Interesting.
Because as a child, I was gaslit on the regular. And that's why I'm in therapy, is that I'm retraining my brain of all the different ways in which my environment was.
It's like your reality is attempted to be altered.
100%. So they, just like in that movie. So it's a really great way to always remember that it comes from this movie where this man was messing with the lights in the house. So the wife thought she was going crazy, so that then she wouldn't trust herself. That's the key. It's to create your environment and to make a person feel like their internal dialogue, their self is not trustworthy. The way you think about your world is not trustworthy. You're
and
crazy.
it's usually connected to them wanting the control.
Right,
instead.
exactly.
They
Exactly.
want control.
So then you
They
don't
wanna
trust
tell you.
yourself. So now
Yeah.
you're gonna trust them, and they can manipulate you in however you see fit.
Mhm.
So that's why it's a very
And since you don't trust yourself, you don't stick up for yourself, and you don't believe that you have the right to stand up for yourself because.
But do you see how that's so much different than manipulation? And it's a very specific type of manipulation. And so that's why when people who have been genuinely gaslit, and you hear people just randomly using it, it minimizes the trauma that gaslighting really is.
Right.
It's tough though because it can be subtle. It can be very subtle.
I think manipulation can be subtle. I think
I think gaslighting can be subtle.
I have a question. I want to know if this is gaslighting because I'm trying to think. Have I been gaslighted in my life? I love the phrase that Wendy said. I was blessed that I did not have a childhood that I had to overcome. Right. So my childhood was dreamy, as far normal, but just normal. It was normal. But in my high school years, I dated a guy almost all 4 years of my high school, and it really was an emotionally and verbally, looking back, abusive relationship in the sense that it was very cyclical, like major jealousy, major, to the point where, but it'd be subtle, to the point where I would just get right to the point where I'm like, we're done. Like, I've had enough of this. And then he would be nice again. And I'd be like, oh, maybe it was just me. You know what I mean? And so
that
an
is
example of this.
100% gaslighting.
Okay, so an example of this, looking back, I'm like, oh, this is so interesting. Because looking back into it, and I said he ended up my senior year. I think I told you guys this. He ended up ending his life. He committed suicide our senior year.
After you broke up.
After we broke up.
Right.
Right. But my first thought, I grieved it, but the Lord was so gracious in that never did I feel guilt. And one of my first feelings was relief. And I said to Mom, I would have probably married him. Because it was so subtle. Like, so here's an example. I'm like, I think this is maybe gaslighting. And he was my first and only boyfriend before Kevin, But like, we'd be in the gym, and I'm me, like extrovert, crazy, whatever. And I could tell, like, he came into the gym and he was furious. And I'm like, crap, what did I do? Shoot, I don't even. I'm literally racking my brain, And he'd come in furious, and he'd be like, I saw you looking at him, and I'm like, I don't even know who I looked at. I don't even know. You know what I mean? And he'd be like, so I would be like, and I'd say that, I don't know who I looked at. Who did I look at? Like, there was a volleyball game. I was watching a volleyball game. Do you know what I mean? But by the time the conversation was over, I talked to my friend afterwards, and because she knew that, she's like, how did it go? I was like, it's fine. I apologize. We're good. And she'd be like, Amy, he was a jerk to you. What did you apologize for? And I'd be like, oh, I don't know. But in the moment, I was like, oh, shoot, it totally was my fault. I'm so sorry. I don't even know who I looked at. So is that gaslighting?
Yes,
or
because he's changing your environment.
Yeah.
So that you don't trust yourself.
Yeah.
And that you then...
I think I probably looked at like 50 people. Which
one? And you felt crazy, and therefore changed your behavior to fit his narrative. Yes, that was 100% gaslighting. 100%.
So interesting, because I remember praying, like, Lord, I know I need to end this with him, and I need you to make it so clear to me. So give me a reason that I can break up with him where there's no way he can turn it around to be my fault.
Yeah.
That was my prayer. And it was our senior thing. We had a senior lock-in. It was a public school where you come and you spend the night, you watch movies, whatever. And I was in charge of it, and it was very clear, like, you do not bring any alcohol into the gym. If you do, like, you're in trouble. It was my event, so anybody who comes, I'm in trouble. And my dad's a chaperone. He came drunk with beer in his pockets. And so I was like, we're done. But there was nothing he could say. Like, I did this because we hadn't gotten in a fight or anything. He just was kind of being a putz. And so anyways, that was the reason I gave him for ending it. But it was really 4 years of, I should have
trauma.
Yeah,
and manipulation.
And so, and he knew, I think, that there was no way he could convince me that it was my fault, and so it was over.
Right.
How soon after did he commit suicide?
I can't remember. I mean, like, maybe a month, a few weeks, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's crazy. But
that is intense.
I've never heard that word before.
So like, here's another example between manipulation and gaslighting. So, like, if you have a partner and, like, or just disagreement, like, I think that's what I mean, manipulation very quickly can become, because it is so subtle. If you're manipulated on a constant it very soon becomes gaslighting, because that's what manipulation is. It's trying to.
If it involves lies that are trying to get people to believe something that's not true,
Right.
and that's what you're working on their psyche for an extended period of time.
Right.
I believe it's a form of gaslighting.
Right.
Whether or not it's environmental.
Yes.
They're trying to change the truth. They're trying to alter, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and because that's been done to me many times by many different people.
Right. And so I think that's the difference. So for me, what I think of when I think of when I think of being about gaslighting is like it's a long-term thing. Like, people have, we're all sinful. We all try to manipulate situations so that we win arguments. Let's just be honest. No one loves to be wrong. No one loves to be humble. We all try to manipulate, whether it's by excuses or exceptions or whatever, manipulate a situation to win the argument or prove to ourselves and our own ego that we were right and that person was wrong.
Sure, we do it with our kids all the time. Every day. We're trying to like be like, well, I really think that it's not bad manipulating. We're parenting.
Well, but
it would be different if we were being like, what would be an example? It would be like, our kids coming to us with a problem and us being like, no, that's not real. Like, that's not really the problem, and this isn't do you know what I mean? Like,
it's a changing of, right.
It's a totally different thing. It involves certain parts that are absent from other situations.
Right. So I think, it's
hard
for
to
me,
explain.
it is. So it is the changing,
it's intentional.
It's the intentional trying to change the way in which you view yourself. It's a manipulation of the environment in which you stop trusting yourself. So if I have an argument with my husband, because I know that's crazy because we're perfect, but and he says something and I'm like, that's not how I saw it, and he's like, well, that's how I saw it to me. Well, I only did that because you did this. Well, that's he's not gaslighting me and I'm not gaslighting him.
You're just arguing. We're
arguing, and
there are different things that the way you saw it.
Right, and the way we saw it, and he might, he's obviously trying to sway me to believe his way, and I'm obviously trying to sway him to believe my way, and that might be a distortion of the truth or bending it to meet our narrative or whatever it is, but neither way are we trying to change the other person's environment, right?
There's no coercion.
There's no There's no
lying.
I mean, white lies. I'll be honest. If I'm having an argument with Peter and I think he's wrong,
but he's not saying you don't feel that way.
Right. It's a changing of the environment so that you, whether it's emotional or physical or remembering, a lot of times it's when you go to that person and you say, this happened, they say, that's not how that happened. It's a reimagining, a retelling of the past. So, I, a lot of let's say, with my mom, we used to go camping, and, so she would tell people, oh yes, we go camping, we're this happy, wonderful family. And so I used to go crazy. I thought I was crazy because I was like, my memory of camping is not what that was. And so but she's my mom and I don't want to embarrass her. And so my mom would tell people, oh yes, we go to Hadley's Point and we cook out and we do all these things. And it's so lovely and blah, 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 blah. What it was we had a pop-up camper. We would go, me and my sister would make friends with people in the campground, and I would collect a bunch of friends. I was in charge of taking care of my sister. We would go to the pool, and my mother and whomever she was dating at the time, or whatever dad I was with at the time, would go hiking and go to Bar Harbor for the day, and I stayed home with my sister, air quotes, at the campground.
How old were you?
Between 8 and 12, and my sister was like 2 and 5 or 6,
Wow.
And but but I feel like so in my mind, I had a wonderful childhood because your parents took you camping, and your parents took you camping, and Peter used to go camping. So why do I hate camping? Like camping, and so I think I'm crazy because I went camping, and then I started realizing when people would talk about what camping actually was, and you know, like, and I was like, oh. And then my sister reminded me that one time we did because she was trying to impress a new partner. So when she tried to impress a new partner, she would do things with us. And then the narrative she told those partners were like, oh, they get really bored. They're much happier at the campground. So, but the first couple times she would make us go, we went for a hike. And my sister had used the bathroom, and she was a little girl. And she had like a little romper on, like back in the 1800s, everyone.
The 1800s.
In the 1900s. In the 1900s, teens.
Like a whole nother century.
The 1900s teens, we used to have rompers too. We were the first ones to wear them in the 90s. And so she, of course, was like, I think she was 6. This is a traumatic event for her. She was 6 or 8, and so she had to take off her whole suit. And so she's like hiding in the bushes using the potty, and my mother stole her clothes.
Just to be funny.
And took a picture of her, put that in the family albums. And my sister was mortified. And I remember thinking it was funny and being like, and my mother minimizing that to me and my sister, like, it was so funny. And now my sister's almost 40, and we were talking, and she was like, that was literally one of the most traumatic events of my, because I was scared in the bushes, naked, and I could hear people coming up hiking. And I had no way to get my clothes.
And whoever she was with at the time probably was
and
no
a new
relation.
man, a new man that she didn't, who she wasn't related to.
Yeah.
And I felt completely guilty because my entire life I thought that was like a funny thing that happened in her childhood.
Right.
Because for me, the environment was, well, I finally got to go hiking.
Yeah.
So we were doing a family thing, and families joke, and families play with each other and be silly, and this was silly. And then I was like, oh my gosh, that was the most. And so then when my sister would try to honor herself as we were growing up and talk about it, my mom would be like, you're crazy. We all were laughing. It was so funny. We have a picture of it. It was like one of the funniest things that ever happened. You're taking this too seriously. That is gaslighting because it's minimizing my sister's internal dialogue where she was like, I am afraid. I am scared. This is wrong. I feel vulnerable and afraid. People are coming. I feel unsafe. I'm vulnerable and no one's protecting me. And my mother is saying, it's just a joke. You can't take a joke. This was just fun. Or me hearing everyone talking about how much they loved camping. And for me, camping was, I've got to keep my sister safe. We can't talk to strangers. That man's been walking around the campground 3 times. Is he going to try to hurt us? I have to make lunch. How do I make lunch? Or am I allowed to use the grill? I guess I should just make sandwiches. We have to go swimming. I have to make sure my sister's not drowning. Okay, where's this? Who do we do? Okay, I gotta help her change her clothes. Like, that was camping for me. It was just this dive. And my mother's like, we went camping. We went camping on MDI. All the You're so lucky. Do you know how many children haven't ever been camping on MDI? Like, that's for the non-Mainers. That's Mount Desert Island. It's this fancy place. We went Hadley's Point, Amber. That's like a very fancy campground. Like, and so so my environment was being manipulated so that I didn't trust myself of what camping was or what my childhood was or what was funny or what was a game.
If you guys still had the relationship that, if you still talked to each other, she'd probably still say the same thing.
Oh.
And you would still say, that's not what happened. That's not really what happened. Yes, it is. So that whole conversation, that exchange is gaslighting, where it's like, that's not really what happened.
Right.
Yes, it is. That is what happened. And that's how you feel about
You're
it.
too emotional.
No, it's not.
You're too emotional.
If that's what's happening, it doesn't matter if it's in a marriage, if it's in a,
friendship.
Friendship. When it gets really severe, I mean, we're true crime junkies, and it's like, this happens all the time in crime, where it's like the
Yep.
serial killer or the killer or whatever, is gaslighting his victim, saying that something is what it's in fact not.
Yep.
They start to lose footing on their grasp of reality. They start to lose footing on their grasp of trusting themselves, and the next thing they know it, they have no self-assurance whatsoever. So there's a sliding scale of what it is.
But I think, and it's also the key component of domestic violence, and that's
Yes,
kind of like
for
it is a
sure.
huge, and
For
that's
sure.
what makes me go back to what you were discussing about your relationship in high school. That environment in which, like, in a healthy marriage, in a healthy relationship, people are allowed to see things differently. And that is the key to gaslighting, right? Like, if you are not allowed to see things differently, and that perspective is not honored,
and voice your opinion in a safe environment,
then you are that is the beginning of gaslighting. And like I said, I do agree. I think it's in a sliding scale, and they creep in, they see how much they can do it. Like that guy in that movie, right? In the play where gaslighting comes from, he didn't just crank the lights off, right? That's not how that happened, because he slowly dimmed them a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, because what's happening is they're creating an environment in which you continue to think you're crazy and continue to think that your opinion doesn't matter and continue to change and not trust yourself. The key is to not trust yourself.
How did that movie end?
I don't know. I've never watched it. I just know that's where it comes from. And I read like the plot. I think she ends up, I don't want to say, but I think she
have you guys
goes
ever
crazy.
seen Amelie?
No.
The French.
No, you like weird movies.
I do.
She really does.
It's weird.
that in one of the scenes, he actually does it in a funny way. To like one of this really mean person, like this guy starts sneaking into his apartment and changes little things. Like he puts different toothpaste and like actually gets a smaller pair of shoes so that his shoe fits, and he's like thinking, and changes the bulbs and is to make them dimmer, and like so this guy who's a really pain in the neck and he's not very nice actually does go crazy because all these little things are so subtle changed. And then there was another show that I really liked, Unbelievable. Did you watch that? I thought I sent that to you.
I love you.
It's a true story. It's about this girl who was brutally raped, and nobody believed her. Nobody believed her.
Oh, I think I did. Yes, I did watch that
No one believed her. And they were like, this isn't what happened, is it? You're making this up to get attention. And she was gaslit by not only the person that raped her, but all of the investigators, and it took only a couple investigators that were like, this doesn't make sense. This must have happened to her, and it started happening to a couple other people.
Yes.
And then they had to backtrack, and she was finally validated at the end. But it was this unbelievable, that's literally the name of the show, process.
Oh my word.
Where no one in her family.
That is crazy.
Nobody, none of the investigators, the cops, everybody
Yes,
else.
everyone just thought it was. I did watch that one. That was like, that was triggering. Another word we'll be looking at.
It really was unbelievable. It was like, how could so many people, and this poor girl. I was just like, this is unreal.
Huh.
I think that's like. Again, I don't want it gets overused. The word gaslight gets overused because
I use it in a joking way, but I actually really do those things to myself. Like
but I think we do. That's our changing. But I think it's again. I think if you replayed that and went back into time, you would find where that voice is. And
I know. And then some of the points of origin for sure.
And that's why it happens. So like people who are not gaslit are less likely to gaslight themselves because they have a stronger sense of self. So for me, as I've been working through therapy, I'm back into therapy with my new therapist. It's lovely. But that's what we've been kind of, one of the things that I struggle with, and I think it's why my primal question is safe, is that I don't have a strong sense of self. Because my whole life, my whole childhood, I was not allowed to trust myself. I was not allowed to trust my intuition. And so when I look at situations, I'm hyper vigilant now that I know what gaslighting is. So like Peter can disagree with me and I'm like, woo, and he's like, breathe. So I want to more explain
Let's go.
what healthy disagreements, healthy situations.
How, just out of curiosity, how did your therapist already, after only 2 weeks, zero in on you having a weak sense of self?
I came in with it. No, this was me. I said, I've been doing a lot of therapy, as we all know. And so when I met with her, we did an intake process. And her intake process was incredible. I was like, I could use that. And
checklist?
yeah, she was like, and this sounds right. So she's working on an actual diagnosis, which when I get it, I'll share it. She's 98% sure, and that will be another podcast. We'll discuss my diagnosis. But
diagnosis.
So you guys will not be shocked by it. And but one of the things that I came to her, because I'm working on myself, and I think Amy, the book 7 Primal Questions was a major light bulb moment for me, because I truly believed my question was going to be, am I wanted or am I loved? And so when I got, am I safe, it really started shrinking down my view of what was really going on. And I had a couple people speak into my life that I love and trust, that were starting to talk about how I respond to certain situations and how I get really, really big. And so I was talking to that with my therapist, and she said, you get big when you talk about like your children or your opinions on things. I naturally get really like
louder,
bigger and louder and like anxious that I have to prove that I'm right about my thoughts. And she's like, that all comes from a lack of autonomy and that you don't feel safe. And so when you don't feel safe, I try to control everything that's around me. And so my goal is that I want everybody to be able, I want you guys to be able to, everyone should be allowed to stand in their own brokenness, and I don't need to take it on, and I can listen and then walk away. And my instinct is to make it safe for me. Your instability it seeps into my autonomy, and I get panicked. And so I feel like I need to control our friendships or control. You guys are better, my 2%ers, but like I get better at it. But with my husband and those kinds of things. So, and that's all a repercussion of being gaslit my entire childhood. That it's like, so that's why gaslighting to me is, when I hear it being misused, it's hurtful, because if you were truly been gaslit, it has actual it damages your brain.
It's abuse.
It's a brain, and it damages your brain.
Yeah.
And so like, so when it's flippantly used in casual conversation, it's kind of like, guys, if you only knew, if you only knew the repercussions of being
it does serious damage.
Aggressively gaslit your entire life. So here's the thing about situations and relationships that I want to say, like, if everyone should be allowed in any interaction to have an opinion. Okay, that's number one. And it's a really important one. And I think some women in particular, people pleasers, people yesers, everyone is allowed to have an opinion. And 2 people can have a differing opinion and still love each other. You don't have to alter your opinion for someone else to be loved or lovable. Also, in a situation, and if those things rub, because sometimes opinions rub, you can find a mutual ground where neither of you are compromising yourself,
or just agree to disagree.
Right, and that could be where it lands. But I'm thinking more like in your marriage.
Oh yeah,
right. Like in your marriage, you can't always agree to disagree on everything, because you have to be you're a one flesh unit.
Right.
So I think that's what is really important when it comes to, if you're in a relationship or in a friendship or in a marriage or a parent or a sibling or in-law or whatever, if you are unable to have an opinion, and when you have an opinion, it is vigorously tried to change, your opinion is trying to be changed, or when you recount a situation, the environment is changing, that's when you need to start thinking about, am I being gaslit? Like, if you can't recount something, like COVID, let's talk about COVID, right? Like, everybody had crazy rules, everybody had crazy different views of opinions on the rules. Everybody were not their best selves during COVID. A lot of people were complete wackadoos on both spectrums and everywhere in the middle, right? So let's say you're having Thanksgiving and you're finally in person again, and no one's wearing a mask, or what they are, and you're talking about, wow, that was really crazy that time, and they look at you and go, what are you talking about? That's not what's happening. That's a good, you were allowed to come over to the house. I don't know what you're talking about. You weren't allowed to come over to the house. Or, that's that same thing. Like, you can't retrace history. Instead of that person going like, yeah, I was nuts. I was not my best self. And then I can say, I wasn't my best self. And wow, that was silly, or that was crazy, or with all, but you relook history and you're like, you can't acknowledge your ridiculousness. Like, because again, everybody was ridiculous during COVID. No one was their best self. And no one handled it. It was something, so if you can't recount history with humility, or, and all of a sudden there's a change, a rewriting of history, or
a re-remembering of
remembering
falsely.
And that's when you know you're not in a healthy situation. People should be able to have a conversation, and I think this is why I want to go back to school sometimes, and then I think about writing papers and it scares me, but I would love to see the psychology of our brain and what happens in the fear of being wrong. I think there's something very interesting about being wrong. If you can, and I think that's how you combat a narcissist, and that's how you combat people who are gaslighting you, is you just admit when you're wrong. And they can't handle that, because
they're never wrong.
They're never wrong. That's why they're gaslighting you.
And they're also trying to control you. And if you take that effect away, they're left with literally nothing.
So how do you combat someone? How do you combat someone who is gaslighting you? Ask questions. Just ask lots and lots of questions. That is literally, it gets right down.
Or you look them in the eye and you say, it is true, and I know it.
Well, you can say, really? How do you remember that? Really? Okay, so when did that? Because all you're doing is that you're not allowing it to change your environment. You're asking them to continue to create a false environment, and it crumbles.
I've heard that you just never engage a narcissist. You say, oh, that's interesting. And you walk away. Like, you don't engage.
Well, that's what questions are. Yeah. The questions are not, they get to keep giving their opinion.
Yeah.
And it's called graystoning. You just, oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, you really.
Well, I have a couple people that are still, they are narcissists that I still have to deal with every now and then in my life, and every now and then a situation will happen, and literally all you have to do is be like, no, I'm not going to do that. She's, oh, I didn't really want you to anyway. If you say no, like, no, thank you. Oh, I didn't really want you to do it anyway. I didn't really think you could.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and so what they're doing is they're engaging you. So then you go, oh, I'm so glad you didn't think I could. Thank you. Okay. But I'm talking more of like, if they're rewriting your history or something, just asking questions.
I'm just saying to push back on if people are trying to take advantage, and then, all the things like
graystoning is awesome. That's just like, oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you. No, it's not going to work today. You're just holding that. Whatever they say, you look at it as if it's a stone. That's why it's called graystoning. It's just a junky gray stone. It's not smooth. It's not useful. It can't work nice in your garden. And you go, great. That's their statement. It's a gray stone. You go, great. Okay. And you just drop it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Drop it. Because when they're unable to engage you, same thing with like questions or stopping it, or when you reflect back to them and you don't give them yourself. That's what they're after.
Yeah.
They're after
Mhm.
your vulnerability.
Mhm.
They're after your feelings. They're after your emotions so that they can then manipulate them.
Mhm.
So if you don't allow that to happen by either, you know, if it's your, like, let's say your grandma is a narcissist, right? You can't necessarily
Hypothetically.
you know, like, you can, and you have to see her, but you see her at things. You can ask that grandma questions all day long. If it's that coworker that wants to talk about, oh, really, how was your weekend? Oh, that's great. Your weekend went well. When did you do that then? Oh, and oh, that's cool. What color was it?
Mhm.
You just asking them questions, and they're
You're
talking.
not giving any part of you.
You're not giving any part of you, and then they can't. They got nothing. They're like, wait a second, I can't manipulate you. You're not giving me anything.
Mhm.
Oh, great. Well, okay, great day. I know. Have a great day, and then you move on.
Mhm.
If you, there's nothing. That you're smooth. You're like an eel. Like it just slides right off of you. You know, like you. So, I think that's the biggest thing. I think gaslighting. I just want people to understand that gaslighting is a controlling of the environment so that you mistrust yourself. It's not a disagreement. It's not seeing a situation a different way. It's when a person is trying to change the way you see something, and it's, you know, so that you don't trust yourself. The end point is not so that, like I said, it's not a disagreement where, like, you're trying to get a person to agree that Rachel does have good taste in movies, and we're trying to tell them they don't. She doesn't have good taste in movies. That's just a disagreement with differing opinions. Because you say she has great, and I'm like, you're crazy.
Mhm.
She has horrible taste in movies. No, you're gaslighting me. No, I'm not. I just think she has, that's just a difference. Changing someone's environment. And if you follow the trail, at the bottom of the trail is so that you don't trust yourself, you're being gaslit.
Well, at the bottom of the trail is malicious intent, too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, and that's the non-trusting yourself. Like what your old boyfriend was doing in that situation. Why I believe that was gaslighting was that in the bottom of that, if you trail that, he didn't want you to trust your opinion.
He wanted control.
He wanted you not to trust yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so that you would just apologize, and
That
then
would
he
have
would then
not been a happy marriage.
Oh, gosh. No.
That would have been terrible.
So
True.
that's all I've got. So gaslight. It's not everything. So use it varyingly. And if you have been gaslit, or you believe you're having someone who's gaslighting you, ask for help.
Mhm.
I mean, especially if you're in a marriage, reach out. There's domestic violence programs, and phone numbers that you can find in your area. I would highly recommend you call them and figure that out. No one deserves to be someplace where they are not allowed to be their authentic self. You are actually doing damage to your brain by living in that kind of environment. So if you believe you're in a gaslit situation or you're being gaslit, find help by someone. Go to someone that you trust to talk about the situation so that you can find out and get yourself help, whether that's getting out of a situation or those kinds of things. No one
Learning how to stick up for yourself.
Yeah. No one deserves that. You do not deserve to not trust yourself.
Super good.
The end.
Does anybody else have to pee again? Does anybody else have to go pee again?
No.
I could. I think I'm okay. Go pee.
Don't talk about anything exciting while I'm gone.
We won't.
Okay, let me shut your thingy off.
Yeah. Shut the thing off on your way down.
Yeah, because you're going to talk about something that
No,
I want to
I'm
hear.
not.